Module 11 skills test about getting to know your galaxies. And the first thing you notice in this skills test is a diagram. This is the Hubble diagram, or sometimes called the fork diagram. And it essentially categorizes various shapes of galaxies. So notice there's kind of this broad distinction between elliptical galaxies and then spiral galaxies. And the spiral galaxies, notice, are broken into normal spirals and barred spirals, and then each one has the different shapes have different categorizations. But the ellipticals start with E, the spirals start with S, and in fact the barred spirals start with SB. And this comes in handy then. Again, this doesn't have to do with the evolution of galaxies; it just has to do with their shape. And so now you're asked in the first question to identify certain images of galaxies according to the general shape, and then a more specific categorization. So notice that you're given some choices between spiral, barred spiral, elliptical. And then there's two categories that are not in the fork diagram. That's irregular and peculiar. If you want to learn more about those, you may need to refer to your book. But once you've chosen your general scheme, then you can, the right column has to do with the more specific classifications, which typically has to do with the barred spirals. Okay, further down in question number 2, we just have some sort of unique galaxies that have descriptive names according to their shape. So you get a chance to see some pretty galaxies and match them to their shapes. And notice the last question, question 4 has to do with properties of galaxies, and you have to match. There's a little Venn diagram there which has spiral galaxies, irregular and elliptical galaxies, and see which of these characteristics are specific to one particular type of galaxy, or if there's any chance of overlap between the different varieties of galaxies.